Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Keeping It Real TV Network, keeping it real in all aspects of life and giving back in more ways than just one. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited that you are here with us this evening. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule being here with us tonight. We do not take it lightly. We do not take it for granted. So thank you. If you are here on the replay, welcome. For those of you that are new, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am First Lady J. We have 4 different platforms that you can view us on, a lot of different things on the different platforms. We are right here on YouTube. We're also over on Facebook. We're on IG and Twitter. On IG, we have a lot of different things there that are posted, so check it out. A lot is free. I said free, capital Free. So check it out. I'm going to just list a few things that we do have. We have everyday cards that are there that you can personalize and use for whatever the occasion is. So honestly, all you have to do is just screenshot it, personalize it, and then send it off to anybody worldwide, really, is how it works. We have monthly recipes. They're not necessarily my recipes, but definitely some recipes that you can try out, something new that you can add to your dinners or lunches or even breakfast if you like. We also have planners and calendars for all ages that can definitely help in your household and organizing and even for your year. We have screensavers for your phone. We have wallpapers for your computers, laptops, and we also have certificates. Certificates is our latest thing that we definitely have. And I think it's awesome and amazing because if you actually scroll through and look at the different certificates, there's different things that maybe you have achieved or overcome that people probably don't recognize out there. One of them probably being overcome abuse or overcome witchcraft and manipulation in the church, just to give a few examples. But what you can do is you can print these off, you can put them in a really nice plaque, put it up on your wall, and yes, be proud of it. Be proud of this certificate. But again, welcome this evening. Please, in the chat, feel free to jump in, chime in, and leave questions, leave comments. Please let us know where you are watching from, and if there's anything you love or agree with, we need you to smash on the heart button. Smash on it. Just don't touch it. No touching, just smash. But without any further ado, I really want to introduce our guest for this evening. Again, the topic tonight is how to sell yourself. We're talking about business and career and jobs and that type of stuff. And this here will help you elevate. It will give you wisdom and it will also give you knowledge. So Elizabeth Tachie-Manford. She just recently added a last name. She just recently got married, so congratulations. But Elizabeth is a professional proposal manager, writer, and resume specialist. She has written proposals in various industries, sectors, and clients such as the Canadian federal government, NATO, and UN departments. In the last 10 years, Elizabeth has been using her skills to help her clients with their resumes so they can sell themselves better on paper. Elizabeth, listen, folks, I have to insert this part here, okay? Not only is she my friend, she's my sister, okay? She's my sister. So welcome. I'm so happy you're here. I'm really happy you're here. Thank you
Thank
for
you
being
for
here.
having me. It's a pleasure to be here for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. So, this evening we have some topics that we want to go over and we want to discuss. I guess the first one would be how do we, first off, set the career goal that we want to set?
Yeah, so there are a different number of factors to consider. Some of them could be, do you want to maintain or climb? Do you want to invest, research, learn, or seek advice? So, to go in specifically, when I say maintain or climb, we're talking about your career level. Are you satisfied with where you are at the moment, or are you looking to climb up the ladder and advance in your career? You also need to invest in your education, training, or certifications because this will back up or support the trajectory of your goals. And when we say investing, this is, sowing a seed into your future, investing in yourself. And this is something that you can leverage down the road, especially with salary negotiations. Another thing to consider is researching. It's so important to stay up to date with the market, with the industry. Things are changing. Something that was relevant maybe three weeks ago or 3 years ago may no longer be relevant today. So you need to research and do your homework so that you are in the loop and that you can leverage that information with your career. Sometimes there are new requirements and skills that are required for your role that were not there before. So research is so important, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
That's right. That's
Um,
right. And it keeps you in the
yeah,
know.
exactly. It's very important. Then you also need to learn, right? You need to apply what you have researched into your work. Sometimes there are new skills, new processes, and approaches that you need to implement. So that's so important. And then you also need to seek advice. These are, you could have a mentor or you could have people who are knowledgeable in the field that you are seeking to advance yourself or be promoted or just good company, and they can direct you in the path of things that you need to look out for, be careful of, the do's, the don'ts. And they have walked the path that you are currently in, so it's very good to seek that advice, and they can also navigate resources or redirect you to the resources for you to gain insight.
That's amazing. That's
So
perfect. Yeah.
these different factors are so important when you are trying to set your career goals.
That's awesome. That's really good advice. Okay, so jumping from there,
Mm-hmm.
how do we write a cover letter?
Okay. First of all, what is a cover letter,
Okay,
right?
what is, yeah, exactly, exactly. That would be the first thing to ask. What is a cover letter? Because some people
Right?
may not know. Yes.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, so a cover letter is like an introduction into your resume, right? Before an HR specialist or an interviewer or a hiring manager reads your resume, the cover letter is an introduction to who you are from a professional standpoint. So in there, you're highlighting your overall expertise, right? You're highlighting your skills, you're highlighting your achievements, and your professional summary of some of the roles or the credentials you have that are relevant to the position you're applying for or the career that you're setting for yourself. And so some of the contents in this need to be transferable skills, right? Skills that you have acquired from previous roles that are relevant to a job that you're applying for and consistent to what you want. You also need to stay relevant, right? You don't want to be all over the place. For example, if the job position is project management, but you're talking about healthcare, maybe there is project management experience related in healthcare, but in your cover letter, you need to merge the two of how those skills are transferable for the role, right? And then another thing to consider is being concise. So this is a summary. This is not the opportunity to break down your career. It's just a summary of your professional skills achievements. So it should be one page, no longer than that. And that's very important. You do not want to ramble on. Yeah.
That's a good point. And you don't need it to be 2 pages long either, right? I guess
Exactly.
how many should it be, paragraphs or just a couple of sentences?
Paragraphs. Yeah, paragraphs. So you have an intro. It's kind of like, I don't know if you remember, like in high school or elementary, you have like your intro, your body, and the conclusion. It's like that
It's
format
like that.
as well.
Perfect. Perfect,
Mhm.
perfect. Okay, so once you have the cover letter done,
Mhm.
how do you go now about to write a resume? But
Mhm.
what do you include and what should you not put?
Mhm. Yeah. So before I go into the details, I want to state that your resume should reflect the career level, right? So we have, junior or entry level, we have intermediate, we have senior, and then we also have executive. So your resume has to be reflective of that. For junior or entry type level roles, these are, it doesn't necessarily mean you just finished high school or, you're a new grad. It just means that you could probably be new into this field or these skills. So you might have like 0 to 2 years of experience um, in this role. And so your resume should be a functional one. For junior or entry level, it should be a functional resume where it's based on your skills, your expertise, um, and some of the experiences that you are highlighting. If it's a little bit more than that, then you might be presenting yourself as overqualified, which
Mm-hmm.
is not a bad thing, but it may not be a good fit, right? Then with um, intermediate to senior executive level resumes, maybe 2 to 5 pages, depending on the role, right? The more advanced career level it is, then the expectation is for you to be a little bit more detailed in
Mm.
how you break down the responsibilities, right? So now getting into the basics, the big stuff, the juicy stuff, you definitely need to have your name, your contact details. But when we say contact details, just your name, your email, and your phone number. We do not want to see your address. Like, that is too much information. In the past, in the past, that was the norm. Like, it was expected, but that's actually not necessary. People do not need to know where you live, right? It's completely irrelevant to your resume. Um, and then your name, you need to have your first and last name. That's also very important. Then after that, you need to have your professional summary. So that's like a condensed version of your cover letter at the top. You're just highlighting, your skills and your achievements relevant to the role. Then after that, you're going to highlight your skill sets, right? Do you have technical skills, functional skills, and soft skills? So technical skills are like tools and software that you use to do your job. Your functional skills are skills that you use to work with other people. And so this could be like your speaking skills, your listening skills, communicating skills, reading and writing skills. Then you also have your soft skills, which are skills that help you work with people. Interpersonal skills. Are you a communicator? Do you work in teams, right? Teamwork. Are you a problem solver? Do you use critical thinking, time management, stress management? Like, you want to highlight those skills. It seems a little cumbersome, like, why would you put that in a resume? But whoever is reading that needs to know that you have those skills, right? Then you state your professional experience. This is like the specifics of, previous roles that you have been in. And so in this section, you are stating, your employer. This could be your client, your organization, or the company that you've worked for or are working for, the city or the province, since we're in Canada, or in the States, it could be the states. In the US, it's the state. The location is very important. You need to also include the role, right? What was your title? Because this is your professional label within the organization. And then you need to also include the start and end dates. If the role is continuous, right, it's a current role, you need to present that as either current or present or ongoing. But start and end dates are important, the month and the year. And then you also need to list out the responsibilities. Like, in this order that I'm mentioning is so important. The responsibilities are so important. And these are the tasks of what you've done, or what you're doing, and how you did them using which tools. It's very important to list that. Then you also need to include, any kind of learning, education, training, certifications, or certificates that you have acquired. And so you need to name the achievement, the type of degree or certificate, or certification it is, the institution it was acquired from. The name of the institution is also important. If this was a certification, then the accredited body is also important. And then the location as well. So that's like the nitty gritty. And then another thing to also consider is proper spelling, grammar, the layout, and the formatting, right? So you need to ensure that you do not have typos. That's very important. And it ensures that you're paying attention to detail, and you should not write like you speak. There has to be a difference. And then also the format, the layout is so important. Bullet form is a lot easier because it's easier to follow and easier to read. So that is the basics of what should be included in a resume. But now I'm gonna go into how to stand out or make your resume stand out, right? Um, Whether you're junior level or entry level, intermediate or senior, those are the basics. But some of the ways to stand out in your resume, how to sell yourself, is not only stating the experience that you've acquired, but demonstrating how you acquired that experience. That's what's going to make you stand out compared to your counterparts, right? So, for example, when you're demonstrating the experience, you need to ensure that you're stating the tools and the software that you used to carry out the task. So, for example, you might have experience drafting documents, right? But how did you do it? Like, what tools and software did you use? You might have experience working in a collaborative environment online, but how did you do that with your colleagues? You might have experience um, sending emails to your colleagues, to your clients, or your company's clients. How did you do that? Via email. So in your resume, you want to break it down and state examples like you drafted documents using MS Word, right? You have experience exporting reports using MS Excel, which is like a spreadsheet. You have experience sending emails to your clients using MS Outlook, right? You're listing the specific software that you used. Another example could be you collaborated with your colleagues or your clients using a SharePoint or MS Teams. And this is a tool or software where multiple people can have access to a single document and collaborate. So just by listing those examples and stating those specifics, you have stood out compared to someone who maybe has the same level of experience and expertise, but they weren't as detailed as you are, right? Another thing you want to do is to quantify your achievements. So when I say that, it means, for example, I'm a proposal writer. So if I say I have experience writing multi-million dollar proposals, that's cool. But if I want to go a little bit more specific, I could quantify my achievements by saying I managed end-to-end proposals, a proposal response that led to a $6 million contract, right? So I'm stating what I did, how I did it, and then the amount. The achievement is the contract. We won the contract, but I'm also quantifying it by stating how much that contract is. So that's also very important. And then another thing to also consider is an ATS. ATS is an applicant tracking system, and sometimes hiring managers or recruiters or companies will use these ATS systems to scan through a resume, and they measure against keywords from the job description that are in your resume. So you want to ensure that these keywords from the job description are also in your resume so that you're not overlooked. I know that's a lot of information,
That's
but
really good though.
yeah.
That's a good point. That's a really
Mhm.
good point because I don't think a lot of people have thought about the, especially the
Mhm.
last part that you had just said. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, no, definitely. Listen, if you have to go back and watch the replay on this, I highly recommend you do so. Pause it if you need to. Take the notes if you are not able to take notes tonight. And if you haven't grabbed a pen and paper yet, please run and do so now. But two things I wanted to ask you, just because I
Mhm.
have seen it. So, for those who don't know, in my past, I was HR for a company. I did HR, I should say, for a company. Um, and a couple of things I had seen come across my desk, but I just want to throw it at you and see your thoughts. Two things. One, printing your resume on colored pieces of paper. I'm talking
Mhm.
about blues and pinks and, anything but the white normal piece of paper.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
also to putting your photo on the resume. What are your thoughts
Mhm.
on that?
Well, with the color, it really depends, right? If you are applying for a job that is in a creative space, right? Maybe they're in marketing or photography or imaging, something that is creative, it could work out. It might work in your favor because it's a creative space. But maybe in corporate, corporate is bland, right? Corporate is bland, and sometimes simple is always better. So when in doubt, always stick to black and white. But in a creative environment, you can do that. Now, I would also say sometimes when you are talking to a recruiter, when they're screening you for this preliminary process before an interview with someone else, this is an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about the company and what they're looking for. So if you need to even print the resume, if you have an in-person interview, then the information that you've obtained during that screening call can help you. Now, coming back to, the headshots, it's only, I always say, keep it simple. It's only relevant and important if your potential employer is asking for it, because maybe it's photography or modeling, or there are some industries where they are looking for, like for example, in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, they're looking for people who of color, who can do specific tasks, and sometimes they require headshots, not necessarily as a mandatory requirement, but it actually adds value that there's diversity in the team or diversity in the applicant. But when in doubt, I always say keep it simple and just stick to, black and white and no headshots. You will never go wrong there.
That's perfect. This is such like great information. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. So now that we have about the resumes, what about the
Mm-hmm.
references? Who
Mm-hmm.
should we have as references?
Yeah, definitely have people who were like your manager or your supervisor, or someone who is a direct report. But there are certain circumstances where maybe a manager or supervisor wasn't someone you reported to. Maybe they're overseeing a department or overseeing your team, but they don't know how you are on a daily basis or how you work, right? So, a situation like that, you can also call upon, your colleagues or someone that you have worked with, who can attest to your skills, who can attest to, your leadership skills, or, instances where you have taken initiative, and they can vouch for you. Because at the end of the day, you can present yourself well during an interview, you can present yourself well on paper, but the human factor, someone vouching for you, is definitely important. So if you did not have a good relationship with someone, it would not make sense to use them as your reference, even if they were your manager. It doesn't really make sense, right? I know it's kind of biased, but you want to make sure that you're selective, in the person or the people you choose as your references.
Right. No, that's really, really good. Or maybe choose, like, definitely, I wouldn't choose family members to put on
Mm-hmm.
there, just because it kind of looks like you were wanting that favoritism. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, but definitely if you have a friend or somebody that you can put down that can definitely vouch for you if you can't put a manager or somebody, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah,
Um,
there are definitely instances you can't do that because maybe they've even moved on to another role. And maybe they're no longer with the company, right? So even if it's like somebody that you work with for a short period of time, but they can definitely attest to your skills and your capabilities, that's also good enough. Now, there is something you said about family members, like you do not want to use family members, but if you're in a situation where you worked for a family
I guess.
member, right? Then that's a
Yeah.
little different,
Yeah. You have no
right?
choice.
Yeah, you have no choice. Maybe that's your only experience, right? But you also want to present it in a professional manner where this person, is not being biased about you or talking favorably about you in a way that it's just unprofessional. You want to make sure that they're talking about your involvement in the company or your involvement within a project that you were part of and can attest to specific skills. Hiring managers can overlook the fact that, oh, she worked for her father. Like, that's not relevant. If her father, who happens to be her boss, can speak on her leadership skills, can speak on her managerial skills, her can speak on how she takes initiative, then that's what a hiring manager is more, interested in.
Right. Right. Perfect.
Hmm.
That was so good. So
Yeah.
good. Okay, so now that we have all of that down pat, we have the resume, the cover letter, who to have as references. Now we're getting prepared to go to that interview because we got that call. So,
Hmm.
how do we prepare for the interview, like dress wise, colors to wear, not wear, even right down to just because of, lately, not everybody necessarily want to shake hands. So,
Exactly.
how should we prepare for that?
Hmm. Well, I always say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So research, research, research. And sometimes this can be done in addition to checking online. If you're in a situation where you are on a call with a recruiter, like you haven't had the interview yet, but you are on a call with a recruiter, this is a preliminary process, a screening process where you can also obtain information from them. So, like for example, if you have done research on the company, that this is a tech company and they're laid back, you want to ensure that you're also dressing accordingly and you're not over the top. Even though you're presenting yourself professionally, you want to also fit into their culture, right? The same goes where if it's corporate and they are a little bit, high up there, they need you to dress a certain way. That's very professional, maybe business professional and not business casual. You could ask the recruiter these questions like, how's the company? How is their dress code? What should I do to prepare myself for the interviewer? Because the recruiter, at least at this stage, is your friend from a professional standpoint. And a lot of people don't know that you can actually leverage the information that you get from the recruiter, right? So, in this day and age, and in the past 2 years, interviews can be both in person or virtual. And sometimes people think that because it's virtual, so they can get away with, how they present themselves and how to prepare. But actually, no, you still need to put in the same effort. And I would say across the board, try to keep it simple. Don't use loud colors, even if the recruiter or the company that you are trying to impress is a loud company, a very creative company, and they may welcome colors. If you are when in doubt, black and white. Black and white is your go-to, is your default. And then you also want to present yourself as professional. So we all have different styles, right? Nobody is asking you to look a specific way, to each their own. But one thing that is very important across the board is to look professional by being neat. right? Actually put in the effort, iron that shirt, you know, especially during virtual calls, like you only see like the top up, right? So whatever's happening at the bottom, nobody can see. But at least like put in the effort to iron your shirt if
Yes.
it's if it's
Yes.
wrinkled,
Yes.
right? Even your hair, it doesn't have to be like so perfect. Like no one's asking you to go to a hair salon, but make sure it's like put together, right? Make sure your face is put together in the sense that your eyes are not red. It doesn't look like you just woke up. You don't look disheveled. Just being neat goes a long way because it's communicating to the interviewer that you're serious about the job, and the way that you would present yourself in person, you're also doing that virtually, right?
Right.
And before, we used to have firm handshakes. Now, we're doing fist bumps or elbow bumps. Like that's cool, right? But you can also ask this question to a recruiter. What is the reception of, even when you're interviewing or being interviewed? Are they Is there a face mask required? Are there elbow bumps, fist bumps? That way you have access to this information, and you fit in very well when you're going for those in-person interviews.
That,
I know you asked a few questions. I don't know if I've addressed all of them.
um, yes, for that part there, like the dress, the color, like you want
Mm-hmm.
professional, the colors, your go-to black and white. I would even insert maybe like um a navy blue
Like
even.
neutrals.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because sometimes
Yeah,
blue
and
can be
you can
very
have colors.
calming. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So if you're even going to have like pink, right? Make sure it's not like highlighter pink. But you know what? I love highlighter pink. It really depends. It really depends on the style. That's a conversation to be had later. But I would say if you're not certain, right? When in doubt, just tone it down a little bit. You can still add color, but make sure they're like neutral or on the lighter end.
That's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's great. Absolutely. Um, okay, so at what point in time is salary brought up? And oh, I think you froze there. Can you hear me? Okay. I think she froze there. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys, I don't know what happened, what happened or took place. I apologize. But I will probably have to bring this to an end and do, oh, we may not have to do part two. Hang on one second. Hi.
Yes.
I don't know what happened. You completely went off screen.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, and I saw you were frozen.
Yeah, you were frozen too. Well, I'm glad that you're back. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. I was just saying that we might have to do a part two because I don't know what happened, but I'm glad you were able to dial back in and come back on. So thank you for coming back in. Sorry about that, folks. Apologize. We were just about to jump into, so we've covered how to set career goals, how to write a cover letter, resume, how the do's and the don'ts on a resume, um, who to include for references, and then how to prepare for the interview. So, your dress code, your handshakes, colors, even.
Yes.
So, the next, I think, would be at what point in time is salary brought up? Is that during the
Mm-hmm.
interview, or is that the second interview, or is that when you're already
Mm-hmm.
hired? And then to go even further, how do you negotiate the salary expectation?
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's actually a great question. I love talking money. But before I get into like salary negotiations, I also wanted to add that for the interview preparations, you have to also prepare questions, right? And that's very important because it's showing that you are prepared, and you're also taking a little bit control of the narrative. Sometimes people think that an interview is, question answer. No, it's actually a conversation. It's a dialogue where the interviewer and yourself are getting to know each other. They've already read about your skills and your qualifications in your resume, but now you can draw upon the experiences in that resume. So asking questions like work culture. What is the work culture? What can I expect in a typical day at this company, right? Another example of a question you could ask is for them to describe their work-life balances and policies that they have in place. So you're also putting them on the spot. It's not just about why should you work for them, sorry, why should you work for them, but also why you should be part of their organization, because it could be a good fit in terms of what's on paper, but maybe they have a toxic culture or a toxic environment, and you're going to learn a little bit more of that based on the questions that you're asking them, right? um,
Exactly. And so through the week, not to cut you off, but through the week, it was posted on both our IG accounts, on our other accounts, IG and Facebook, um, some things to look for when looking for that career. The salary and
exactly.
like different questions, like are they family like oriented? There are some companies that are out there that really do have great work and family life balance, where
Mm-hmm.
they do help in those areas. So for anybody who's wanting to see some of those questions that maybe you can ask,
Mm-hmm.
in the interview or negotiating salary and stuff like that, feel free to go back and have a look. But sorry, you were about to say something.
No, no, it's true. No, and I even want to add to that. Like, for example, like going back to even what you're saying in terms of when do we have the salary conversation? Do not, and I repeat, do not bring it up during the recruiting or the screening call, because sometimes recruiters, they want to pique your interest. They want to get that information about what your salary expectations are before you've even had the interview. And for me, that does not make sense because you don't even know what the package is. You only know the job description, but you don't know what the entire package is. Is this a contract job? Is this an employment job? Is there are there benefits? Right? Is this a managerial role? Maybe on paper it says you're not a manager, maybe you're a supervisor, or you're not in that leadership role. But when you ask questions, certain questions during that interview, you're starting to see that actually I will be managing a team, but my role is not a manager. So how can I provide, my salary expectations based off of the role that I don't even know about, right? So even during an interview, never start or initiate that salary conversation. Always leave the interviewer with that responsibility. And usually, if it comes up during an interview, it should be at the end, right? Sometimes you're going to have one interview and sometimes you're going to have multiple. It should be towards the end where you are seeing the fit of the company, the fit of the role, and does it align with what you're looking for? Does it align with your career goals? This is why we started in the very beginning about how to set your career goals. That comes into play even when you're negotiating your salary. And so when that conversation comes and you're like, okay, yeah, you know, I can see myself working for this company. The job description matches my skills. I feel confident that I can do the job. I'm okay with the package. Then you can provide a salary range. I always say never give a specific number, always provide a range because you don't want to limit yourself, right?
Yeah.
But that salary range should be based on your research, right? So if you rewind, we talked about research. uh, yep, research. Right? Your salary expectations should be based on the research that you have done on that particular role, right? If you are, like, for example, I'm a proposal writer and manager, and that falls under project management. So I need to consider the industry. You know, am I in healthcare? Am I a project manager in healthcare? Am I a project manager in IT? Am I a project manager in communications? That matters, right? I also need to consider my location. If you're in Ontario, Canada, your location in Ottawa, Ontario versus Toronto, Ontario versus Kingston, Ontario, the salary expectations are going to be different, right? You also need to look at the career level. Are you entry level? Are you intermediate, senior level, or executive? That's also going to play a role. So I always have two approaches when discussing salary. If I still don't feel I want to put a number out there, I would ask the recruiter to, like, for example, these are my go to. Um, I'm interested in, like, you can actually go back and listen to this like multiple times and write it down. I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about the process or the package down the road, but I'd like to hear from your end, what is the client's or the company's budget for this role? So you're flipping the script on them to let them know that, okay, they should provide you with, you know, the role, the expectation, the requirements, the package, and the range should be from this end to this end, and that should give you a little bit of insights as to what you're working with, right? Another go-to approach that I have is, you know, telling them that, oh, that sounds great. I'd like to talk a little bit about this later on down the road. Right now, I'm more interested in finding the right fit. So, this is also communicating to them that, yes, although your salary expectations um, will be determined when you have a better understanding of what you're working with, being in a company where it's the right fit is actually more important. So the ball is actually in your court. You're flipping the script, you're owning the narrative, and this is an approach that not a lot of people know they can be empowered to do.
That's awesome. That's a really, really, really good point. Really good
Mm-hmm.
point. Something I wanted to include, and I'm going to jump back just for a moment for in the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just popped in my head because this happened to somebody I know not too long ago. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if you are being hired into a company and they have parking there, make
Mm-hmm.
sure
Mm-hmm.
to ask if parking is covered, if you can
Yes.
park for free or if there's a fee, and if there is a fee, if the company
Mm-hmm.
actually pays for parking or not. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
companies will hire you and not mention anything about parking, and next thing you know, you've got hundreds to pay
Yeah.
for that month and
It's
forward.
so true. It's so true. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so true.
So that's a
And
question that
it's
should be asked.
actually good to ask those questions, right? So this is what helps you prepare or for an interview, or these are the things to consider when you are asking a few questions during the interview process. Because, you know, if you are going to work at a, B, and C company, you should have an idea of what to expect. Even the working conditions, right? Is there an ergonomic environment where it supports what you're doing? If it's a sedentary type of job that you're doing, you're always sitting down, you know, what environment are you working with to support that so you're not always sitting? You know, are you also standing sometimes? Are the chairs comfortable? It seems like very petty, but it actually does come back because down the road, um, the tasking jobs that or the tasking activities that you're doing can actually hurt you, your wrists, you know, your back, your like your legs, your feet, all of that. And if you're not able to do your job, that actually can affect your role, right? So if you can even bring that up to a hiring manager, then you've given them a little bit of insights as to, oh, actually, this is very important, or no, we don't
Yeah.
do this, but we can look into it, or
Yeah.
we can actually start enforcing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. That's
Mm-hmm.
perfect. Okay, so then the next thing, and I think, and pretty much, I guess, the final thing would be an exit interview. Because now
Mm-hmm.
you're being hired into a new company, and so you need to leave the company you're with, or you are just looking to leave the company and take time off
Mm-hmm.
before finding something else.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's that exit interview, and not everybody has heard of an exit interview. So I guess we'll start off with what is an exit interview?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So an exit interview, like you mentioned, this could be you're currently leaving your job for a new opportunity, or it could be maybe you were let go for whatever reason, whether it's you were fired or laid off, or you are choosing to go for your own reasons, maybe a career advancement. So an exit interview is pretty much offboarding. It's an offboarding process where if there was anything that belonged to the company, this is the opportunity to give it back. But also during this exit interview, whoever is involved, it could be your manager or the owner, CEO, or your supervisor, um, could ask you a few questions just to gain a little bit of insights as to, especially if you're leaving by choice, they might want to know why you're leaving, even if you've already told them, right? But it's a formality for them to also get a sense of, is there something they could do to improve their process? So this is your chance to actually address any concerns that you may have had that were not addressed initially, or maybe you were not satisfied with how it was addressed, it wasn't effective. This is your chance to be also professional, even if you're leaving on bad terms. You still want to be professional by stating how you're grateful for the opportunity and how you've grown, right? Because the world is round. You do not want to burn any bridges, and you also want to keep it very professional. Um, and sometimes they would even ask you a question about reconsidering um, staying, and sometimes they might want to increase your salary. So if you are open to it, that's your opportunity to state that maybe you found another opportunity, that there's advancement for growth, right? Advancement in your career. You didn't see that it was happening here, and it was limiting your career goals, right? You use those keywords. You don't just talk like small talk, like I didn't like it here, or it's not working out for me. Like that's not professional. But if you're using like specific terminology, it was a toxic environment, or it's time for me to move on in my career and advance myself in my career, or I found another opportunity that meets my career goals. Those are the things that they need to hear. And if they can actually, match the salary that might be higher at a different organization that you're going to, that's the opportunity to state it. But then again, don't give the specific number. Always give a range, right? You
That's
need to
good.
be ambiguous. You need to be ambiguous in that regard, but still given information so that they know what they're working with. And
Right.
if they can win you over, that's great. If they can't, well, at least they lessons learned, right? So
Right.
it's still a positive thing.
Right. That's perfect. That's so good. So, so, so good. Listen, if you've got any comments, any questions, now's the time to put them in the comments. As you are typing out those questions and comments, I do have a couple questions for you. I'm going to throw your way. Okay, so my first question is, what is the one thing about your job slash field of expertise that almost no one agrees with you about?
Mm-hmm. So usually it's people that I work with. A proposal writer and a proposal manager are not the same thing. I'm a proposal manager and a proposal writer. So a proposal writer focuses only on proposals, where they're gathering the information to input responses to a requirement that the client has asked for. But a proposal manager is overseeing the entire process of a specific proposal. From the time there's a request to reading the document, um, coordinating with the appropriate stakeholders, appropriate subject matter experts, and facilitating those types of meetings, obtaining the information, and then coordinating with internal team members. Sometimes writing the proposals myself, and then also quality assurance processes, editing, formatting, and then submission, right? So a proposal writer can manage a proposal, but is not always a proposal manager. And a proposal manager is not always writing the proposals, but I'm actually doing both. And sometimes people don't believe that. They think, a proposal coordinator, a proposal admin, a proposal manager, a proposal writer is doing the same thing, and it's not the same. So
That's good. I'm glad you pointed that
sometimes I have
out.
to explain it multiple times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's a good thing to point out because I believe many do believe that they're the same thing and they're not.
exactly.
Yeah.
And as a result, people think like they know you're not a robot. They know I'm not a robot, but like they treat me like I'm a robot. Like I can do everything. I mean, I can do a
What do you
lot.
mean you can't?
I can do a lot, but sometimes in these roles, you're treated like a robot. So this is where you have to be, you have to stand your ground and kind of remind people like what you're actually doing. And sometimes when I say people, I'm talking about your own boss or your clients, right? It's like, no, I'm not a personal assistant. I'm a proposal writer. This is what you hired me to do, and I'm going to stay within my scope. If you expect me to do more, then let's have that conversation.
Right, right. And then again, we talk about salary.
Exactly, right? It might be if you want me to do more, then bring the money.
I'm telling you, that's exactly it.
Obviously, don't say it like that, but that's what it means. And you
Yes.
need to respect that, right? You need to know, like you yourself have to know who you are in your role and what is within your scope and what you will tolerate. It's very important.
And it's okay to have work boundaries. Like it really is.
Exactly. Yes, definitely.
100%. So I do have one other question for you. Before I do so, I just wanted to give a shout out to your shirt. I love your shirt. We met.
Thank you.
Okay, so my last question. Again, if you viewers have any comments or any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. If not, you can always reach out. Elizabeth will tell you how you can reach out to her in just like 2 seconds. But for my last question, which is, what's the most important lesson you have learned over your career?
Oh my goodness, that's such a loaded question. But if I want to summarize it, I would say know your worth. That's an umbrella. Okay. Know your worth. Aside from like the research that you have put in to, your skills, your qualifications, your expertise, know your worth. That also plays into your salary. And then also know your worth in terms of the specific skills that you have been hired to carry out, because it will also enforce what you tolerate. As much as you can be talented and wearing so many hats, you are not a robot, you're not superwoman. As much as we are very capable, you are not superwoman, or else you're going to be burnt out. I've been in situations where I've burnt out. And so I've learned how to say no. And usually I'm a yes person, right? So if I say no, it means, look, it's not feasible, it's not realistic, and it's not something that can be done, and my voice should be heard, right? So you need to also know the difference between being taken for granted versus being appreciated. When you're taken for
Yes.
granted, people can always say, oh, thank you for your work, we really appreciate it. And then they still dump more work on you.
Yeah.
But when you are appreciated, your work is supported or you are supported. When you raise your hand and you're like, I need help, or if we are going to do this, I need this support, right? Your voice is heard, you are able to give suggestions and it's reinforced, your work ethic is reinforced, then that's very positive. So over if I really want to summarize, it's knowing your worth. Because
100%.
when you know your worth, like on a deep level.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think we know our worth, like, oh, I'm independent, oh, I'm strong, I'm intelligent. No, we're not talking about that. Or I
Mm-hmm.
have good self esteem or confidence. That's just surface level.
Mm-hmm.
It goes deeper than that because your knowing your worth will determine what you tolerate. It will determine what you accept, what you do not accept, what you're not willing to compromise, what you are willing to compromise, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to take. And that will help you, you know, do your job better and also create that balance that you need in life, professionally and personally.
Right. And I agree. Like, know your worth 100%. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
talking about like have that attitude of like I'm all
Mm-hmm.
that and you're nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's know your worth because you need to apply that to yourself, which comes with boundaries. Know that your
Exactly.
mental health matters. Know that
Mm.
you physically, like, it matters. Like, you shouldn't be feeling sick every day you have to go into work or anything like that. And so you should create those boundaries so that you are just like, okay, something's off here, something's wrong here. Maybe I need to start looking for something else. Or maybe I can talk to my boss and see if I can lighten my load a bit, or have
Exactly.
somebody assist me, or whatever it may be, because you matter. I mean, let's be
Mm-hmm.
honest. Let's be really honest just for a second and really transparent. At
Mm-hmm.
any workplace, we are all, no matter your job title, no matter what you
Mm-hmm.
do, we are all replaceable, but we are not
Yeah.
replaceable at home.
Mm-hmm.
We're not.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. It's not personal. It's business, right? If something's wrong with me today, like the business must go on,
yeah,
right? And it's not because like if you're not there, you're not there, and they're going to replace you because the job must go on. So
right.
if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't do your job. So it also requires speaking up, right?
That's
It's
right.
not, it's an opportunity for you to also say, I need help. There's actually strength in doing that. You're not weak when you're asking for help. Like I am very confident in myself and I know I'm very good at what I do, but I'm also strong enough, right, to know when to speak up. I'm
Yeah.
also strong enough to know that, hey, this is not realistic for the time that I've been given. What you're expecting me to complete for the time that I've been given is not realistic. And
Hmm.
so either I need to lighten my load or you need to support me with another team member or other team members so that we can meet that deadline
Right.
efficiently.
Right. So
Definitely.
it's
So
definitely
yeah, it's
important. So know
it's
your
very.
worth. Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any questions in the chat. So with that being said, can you just let everybody know how they can reach out to you personally,
Mm-hmm.
and if they have any questions or concerns after the show?
Definitely. Yes, so you can reach me via email at Elizabeth_Tachie@live.ca. That's my direct personal email. And I will try my best to address any concerns or questions or inquiries that you may have via email.
Yeah, and the email address is this way, right there.
Yes,
It's there.
right there. No, no,
Other way.
right here. There we go.
It's right there for you. um, yes, please reach out to her and give her some time to get back to you. She's very, very busy. So if you don't hear from her within like 28, 48 hours, do not worry. She'll get back to you as soon as she can. I know that she's just a very, very busy person, which is fine. I mean, life is busy, and there's a lot. And, we never know, in general, we never know, um, you know, when somebody takes time, and I'm not talking about you, I'm just talking about in general, when somebody takes time to get back to us, sometimes they need that time, just to
Mhm.
manage stuff, beforehand. So um, yeah, so that's everything for this evening. Is there anything else you would like to insert before we leave, off the top of your head, or?
I would say, I know I said it already, but if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So definitely put in the work and do the research because the world is changing and it's always evolving, right? Evolution is change over time. So it's definitely important to stay up to date. You'll
Yes.
always be on top when you do that. And I think I didn't mention this earlier, but update your resume every few months. Update your resume every few months, with whether it's even just the layout or the formatting. If there was something new, a new skill that you have learned, update your resume because you don't want to wait until you need to apply for a new position or a new career. You'll always want to be ready, right? So if you update it every few months, you're always ready, always on your toes, and you'll never lose. That's how I'm here.
That's perfect. I feel kind of convicted with you saying that because it's been like ever since I've updated
Don't
mine, and I'm
worry,
like,
call me. I'll help you out.
thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But again, I don't see any questions or anything like that in the chat. So, oh, hang on one second. Question for Elizabeth. How do you maintain work personal boundaries for self care?
That's a loaded question.
That's a
Well,
good question.
it's a great question. Having boundaries is very important, right? So I'm very protective of my time, right? Because if I don't manage my time well, I'm not going to be effective or efficient in my how I actually carry out my activities or my tasks. So it's very important for me to also put in my calendar some um, time off during the week,
Yeah.
certain time frames where I do not check emails just because I am that person who's constantly like on the go. So I need to even put boundaries for myself, to maintain that balance. And then also weekends, I try my best not to look at work emails. It's very easy to do that, but I set those boundaries for myself so that it doesn't feel like I'm working throughout the week, Sunday through Saturday, unless it's like those very important deadlines that must be met. And Monday's coming, and I do not want to be stressed out. So I'm helping myself to prepare for it, but it's not a habit. I try not to make a habit from it. Right. And then also with, colleagues or clients, I try to set my standards from the very beginning. Sometimes, if you don't do that and you are already in it, it's kind of hard to stand up for yourself when someone is crossing a boundary that they don't even know exists, right? So that's very important from the very beginning, and you need to be upfront with the people you're working with. Now, I want to enforce that, I'm at a certain level where I can do that. um, I am very advanced in my career, so I have that confidence to do it. But I would say for entry level or junior level professionals in their career, not to say you can't do it, but be careful about your approach, but be honest with your boundaries. Because at the end of the day, work life balance is something that we hear a lot in the workplace, and it's very important to enforce it or to bring it up. Whether it's, during an interview or when you've started your role, it's very important to set those standards from the beginning, and it will help you down the road.
Yeah, no, exactly. Dead on. Perfect. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Alrighty, I'm just checking the chat real quick to see. We've got thank you both. A lot of great advice to let soak in. Yes. A lot of information, a lot of knowledge that what's that?
I was like, I was like information overload, but I know it's
It's
definitely
good
beneficial. I mean, I
information.
have a lot more to say, but we're trying to keep it concise here.
It's a lot of good information, and again, feel free to come jump back on, watch the replay, and just let it all soak in, and it will definitely help you move forward, if not
Mhm.
right this second, but prepare. What you want to say, or updating your resume. Maybe you want to take some stuff out, your cover
Mhm.
letter, different things like that. Again, salary wise, the range of it, not a precise number, but the range. So, yeah, there's a lot of information, and it's really great information. I'm really thankful that you came on this evening as our special guest. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully, we'll have you back in the near future. I know you've got a lot of other things you can talk about too.
Of
So
course.
you never know what we'll be talking about next.
Mhm.
But thank you again for being here this evening. Really appreciate it. And to our guests and first time visitors here, thank you so much for being here this evening. Again, we have 4 different platforms. We have right here, which is the YouTube channel, Facebook, IG, and Twitter. You can find all of those platforms within the link in all of our bios or the About section, and you will be able to be redirected there. There's also some other links there with really great information that could help you out in other areas of your life as well. Again, jot down Elizabeth's email address and email her if you have any questions, even concerns, or even a comment about tonight's show. Alrighty, folks, until next time, keep your head high, shoulders back, go get what's yours, and know that the sky is not your limit. Take care. Bye.
Bye.